Good morning. In this video, we will discuss chapter 9, which is Relational Database Design by ER to Relational Mapping. From the textbook Fundamentals of Database Systems, written by L. Masri. So, let's discuss the relational ER to relational mapping in this video. So there are 7 steps for the ER to relational mapping, which are step 1, mapping of regular entity type, step 2, mapping of weak entity type, step 3, mapping of one-to-one relationship type, step 4, mapping of one-to-many relationship type, step 5, mapping of many-to-many relationship type, step 6, mapping of multi-valued attributes, and the last step is mapping the n-array relationship type. Okay. Actually, in this video, we will be discussing the ER2 relational mapping, not the EER2 relational mapping, only ER, entity relationship model to the relational mapping. So let's look into the step 1. Step 1 is mapping the strong entity type. So when I say strong entity, it's again called a regular entity, which is a relation having a primary key attribute. Okay, so one attribute, key attribute, act as a primary key attribute. Okay, so that key attribute could be a composite or it could be a simple one key attribute. Okay, so let's look into one example which is given in the chapter, which is an ER diagram for a company database. So this is the ER diagram for company database. Here you may see the entities. One is employee, another department, one more project, and there is another one is dependent. So but this dependent, by seeing the diagram, double border line, okay, by seeing the picture you can understand it's a weak entity type. We will come to that later. So let's look into the strong entity, regular entity types, which is employee, dependent, department, project. So let's put it in the relational schema. So how does it? So let's see the relational schema. So the strong entity type, which is employee, another is department, another is project. When you look into the schema, the primary key attributes are underlined. So SSN, D number, P number. Okay, so this is step 1. So let's move on to step 2. So when you look into step 2, which is mapping of weak entity types. So here in the ER diagram I show you, dependent is the weak entity which doesn't have a primary key attribute. Okay, so it has only the partial key attribute which doesn't have a primary key attribute. Every weak entity has a owner entity. In our ER diagram, owner entity is employee. So the employee number, the SSN, the primary key of the owner plus the partial key of the weak entity together act as a primary key for the weak entity. So, okay, so now when you are doing the schema, you just include the SSN number in the dependent because together it is the primary key of the dependent. The two keys, the primary key of the owner, which is SSN, and the dependent has a partial key. Can you look into the key here in the ER diagram? It's underlined, but it's dotted line. The underline is a solid line. It's not a solid dotted line. That means it's a partial key. Okay, so include the SSN in the dependent entity. Okay, when you do the schema, include the SSN. Plus, make sure to have a foreign key reference to the employee table like this. Okay, so here this is the dependent dependent relation. Here, can you see the schema here? And I told you that partial key is name of the dependent, and the primary key of the owner is SSN. So together two of them act as a primary key of the dependent table. And can you see the blue line here? I include the foreign key reference. So ESSN in the dependent refers the SSN in the employee table, which is a primary key. So ESSN is the foreign key. Okay, so include a foreign key reference. So this is step 2. So let's move on to step 3. So step 3 is mapping one-to-one relationship type. Okay, so there are many ways to do this mapping. Okay, there are many ways, means 3 ways. What are the 3 ways? Maybe include a foreign key, primary key reference. Okay, foreign key approach. Choose one of the relation and include the foreign key and that refers the primary key of the another table. Okay, so how do you choose which one to have a foreign key, which one to have the primary key? Very simple. The total participation, you need to take the relation which is having the total participation. Okay, so that total participation, that entity, it needs to have the foreign key reference to the other table. Okay, so this is one approach, having a foreign key reference. Another approach is you have two relations and that have a one-to-one relationship. So just merge the two relations in one relation. Okay, two into one relation. That is the second approach. Okay then. And the third approach is cross-reference. What do you mean by cross-reference? Relationship relation. That means you create a third relation. You create a new relation, which is a third relation, which is in the name of the relationship, and include the primary key of the two relation in the new relation. That's it. Okay then, so these are the three approaches. So but here we will be using the foreign key approach. Okay, so this is the foreign key approach. In our example, we have a one-to-one relationship in our example, which is the company database. Oh, okay, we are in the same. Oh, here it's a company database. Yeah, so let's look into this diagram. We have one-to-one relationship. See, employee manages department. Okay, so this is employee manages the department. So try to have a foreign key reference. Okay, that is the first approach. So here assume, okay, take one relation that will have the foreign key, and that foreign key refers the primary key of the another table. So that's the idea. So here can you see employee manages the department. So here what are you going to do? And one more thing, you need to look into the relationship managers. It has its own attribute. Relationship is having an attribute start date. Can you see that one? So I told you a few minutes ago, take the relation which have the total participation. Can you see here? Department is having the total participation. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to include the employee okay, so here I'm going to include the employee number as a foreign key in the department table, which will refer the primary key of the employee table, which is SSN. Okay then, so I told you how do you choose the table. Just look into the relation which is having the total participation. Here department is having the total participation. So what are you going to do? Modify the schema for the department. Try to include the SSN of the employee who act as a manager, because what is the relationship? Employee manages the department. So what does it mean? One of the employee is the manager of the department. So include the SSN of the manager in the department table along with this attribute. Can you see the attribute of the relationship start date? So that's the thing here. So let's look into step 3 in our mapping. So step 3 is I need to change this table department. This is table schema of the table department. Okay, to include SSN number of the manager and the start date of the manager. So how does it look like? Can you see the foreign key reference? So the SSN number is a foreign key, refers the SSN of the employee table. So this is the foreign key reference. So this is step 3, one-to-one relationship. We don't have any other one-to-one relationship. This is the one and only one-to-one relationship. So this is step 3. So let's move on to step 4. Step 4 is one-to-many relationship. So when you look into one-to-many relationship, the idea is to have the foreign key reference. Okay. So which because there are two relation. Which relation is going to have the foreign key? Which relation is going to refer the primary key? So how do you decide? You know, there is one-to-one relationship means the side of many, one to many. Is it many? Look into the relation having the many participation. Okay, that's that side. Okay. So that's the, you see that participating entity type at the end side. When you have one entity relate to another entity which is having the one to many relationship, is it one to many. So just look into the end side. Okay, then the entity type at the end side. Okay, so that is the entity going to have the foreign key which is going to refer the primary key. Okay, so that is the entity going to have the foreign key which will refer the primary key of another table. So let's see the ER diagram. Yeah, here we have many we have many one to many relationship. Can you see here? Many employees works for one department. Here is one to many. And then department controls the project. And employee works on a project. Sorry, that is many to many. I'm sorry. Employee has many dependents. Okay, employee has many dependent. This is one. And then employee works for department. Another one is department controls the project. So I told you, look into the entity in the end side. That will contain the foreign key. Okay, so employee will contain the foreign key which refers the primary key of department. Okay, let's see that one in the schema. Can you see here? This is one other. Okay. Yeah, all are mentioned here. One shot I gave here. Can you see that? Employee contains the department number, which is a foreign key, refers the primary key of department table. And then project. Project contains the foreign key, which refers the primary key of department table. And then one more. Can you see there is one other one-to-many relationship in the diagram, which is one employee supervises other employees. Can you see here? There is one more one-to-many relationship. One employee supervises other employees. So how do you see that? Can you see here? One employee, which is a supervisor, SSN, supervises other employees. So this is the foreign key, refers the primary key. So it's in the same table. It's fine, no problem. Foreign key, primary key could be in the same table or it could be in the different tables. It's fine. So can you see all these one-to-many mapping? So here, this is for one employee supervises other employees. This is for one employee works in the department. Okay, some mean to say many employees works in the department here. And this is the projects. Department manages many projects. Can you understand this one? Okay. Now let's look into the many to many relationship. So when you have many to many relationship, the solution is to have a cross reference. Cross-reference means relationship relation. So you create a new relation and call it with the name of the relationship. And what should be the attribute of the new relation? Primary key of the two relation. That's the idea. So in this example, okay, wait a minute. In this example, what is the, we have a many to many relationship. Employee works on projects. So here many employees works on many projects. So create a new relation which is called works on. Okay, and what should be the attributes of works on? Primary key of SSN, primary key of project, along with, do you see there is a attribute for the relationship hours? So totally three attributes. So let's see how does it look like in the relationship diagram. Sorry, this is for the next step. This is the works on. So what are the attributes of works on? Primary key of the employee table, primary key of the project table, and then the attribute of the relationship. So foreign key reference, can you see the ESSN refers the SSN in the employee table, and the PNO. PNO refers the P number in the project table. Okay. Now the next step is multi-valued attributes. Sometimes you may have multi-valued attributes. So if you have multi-valued attributes, what could be the solution is create a new table, call it with the name of the attribute name, whatever is it, and include that multi-valued attribute along with the primary key of the table. Okay, so here do we have multi-valued attributes? Yes, we have one multi-valued attributes. In this ER diagram, look into the department entity. It has three attributes. One of the attribute is location, and it has a double border. So whenever an attribute is with the double border, that's multi-valued attributes. Okay, so you need to separate it as a new entity. So create a new table relation, call it as location, and one of the attribute is location, another attribute is primary key of the department. Okay. So this is, can you see here? Because I already made it before. So this is the new relation, department location. Location is there and the primary key of the location department. It was here. It was in the department. Now it is removed from the department table. Can you see? Previously it was in the department table. Let me go back. Yeah. Let me go back so that you will understand. Can you see that? There was an attribute called locations, but it's a multi-valued attributes. I need to create a new table, is it? So remove it from that table. Okay, from the multi-valued attributes to be taken out of the table. Create a new table, call it locations, and can you see the attribute location inside? And what is the another one? Primary key of the table. From where it comes? It comes from the department table. So primary key of the department table. Can you understand now? So this is the idea of the mapping. Okay, so we still have one more which is step number 6, step number 7, mapping n-array relationship types. With what do you mean by n-array relationship type? The relationship, there is a relationship between more than two entities, maybe 3, 4, 5, I don't know, more than two entities. So that's what we call n-array relationship. The idea is create a cross-reference. That means relationship relation. That is create a new table, relation, call it in the name of the relationship, include the primary key of all the entities. Okay, for example, let's look into an example here. This is a ternary relationship. Can you see here supply? and with three entities, supplier, part, and the project. So the schema could have one for supplier, one for part, one for the project, and create a new relation, call it supply, and it will have the attributes like primary key of the supplier, primary key of the part, primary key of the project, along with its own attribute, which is quantity. So let's look into the schema. Can you see the schema? There is a supplier entity which comes here, supplier entity, and then project entity, part entity. Can you see the schema here? One for the supplier relation, one for the project relation, one for the part, and this is the new one. I told you this is for the relationship. Create a new relation with the name of the relationship and include the attributes, primary key attributes of all the three relation, and make it refer the original table. Okay, so it's a foreign key refers the primary key, another foreign key refers the primary key, and the third foreign key refers the primary key. Can you see that? So include the foreign key references. So this is the step number 7, mapping of NRA relationship. Okay then, thank you so much.